We're going to head to our second top story of the morning today, headed out to the FMCSA, their decision to now start consider hair follicle testing for when it comes to drug testing. John Gallagher is with us today. John, tell us a little bit about this. There's been some kind of pushback before when it comes to hair follicle testing, and now it seems like they're warming up to the idea.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, actually, Kaylee, because this group called the Trucking Alliance, they're asking to be exempt from rules that prevent them from uploading positive hair test results into the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. This group it's about 10 major truckload carriers, U.S. Express, Knight Swift, J.B. Hunt, Maverick, Schneider, all these big guys. They've been pushing for this for several years now for two reasons. It's safety, and number one, but also as part of that, they're spending money. It costs like $50 to $100 for these tests, I believe, and so that's money that others aren't spending because they don't legally have to. So it's sort of it's a safety and sort of also like a uneven playing field type of issue, but. They asked for a similar exemption 2 years ago. Last year, the FMCSA under Meera Joshi, the administrator last year, ruled on their 2020 application saying that they're not going to allow them to air public comment because the FMCSA lacks jurisdiction on it. Health and Human Services is considering new mandatory guidelines on it right now. So they're supposed to deal with it first before FMCSA can. And last year, FMCSA also made the point that because they lack jurisdiction, not only does that prevent them from providing a notice and comment period on it, but if they were to do that, if they were to provide that notice and comment period, it would be misleading to the industry because everyone would be under the impression that if you're able to justify your exemption application, FMCSA theoretically could grant that application. So, but today, in fact, like 15 minutes ago or so, I guess, FMCSA under a different administrator now, Robin Hutchison, is publishing a notice and comment period on this application. From the Trucking Alliance, and today FMCSA is saying that while we still lack jurisdiction on it, we're publishing the notice and comment period because we're statutorily obligated to do so. So that raises two questions: like, why wasn't that the interpretation last year? Last year you were saying you couldn't publish it because you don't have jurisdiction over it. And if the reasoning last year was that if you were to do so, it would be misleading, why is that not misleading today? So it's sort of like the bigger story is the FMCSA, are they reassessing sort of how they approach these rule exemption applications from the public, whereby they seem to be being much more liberal in giving the public a chance to weigh in on these exemption applications versus rejecting it without even providing this notice and comment period.
And John, you mentioned the change in the administration just 20 minutes ago. When we look at this announcement, what's the timetable potentially for this change?
The timetable is the FMCSA has a lot of, they're first of all, they're putting out a 30-day comment period. So they have to look through the comments, and then they can either make a decision on it, and there's a lot of leeway into when they can make the decision, or they don't have to make a decision at all. I mean, I would suspect that they're not going to grant this application because, like they say, they don't have jurisdiction on it. They're waiting on the Health and Human Services to weigh in. Now, what could happen is HHS is actually going to be looking at this at the mandatory guidelines that were put out in 2020. They're revising those right now based on the comments that they got. And so they're supposed to actually be meeting in September on these new guidelines. So what could happen is that HHS will put out these new revised mandatory guidelines on hair testing, on hair testing. And so the FMCSA might very well just wait, obviously, for that to happen. In fact, 30-day comment period is probably going to be after the meeting anyway. So there's plenty of there's plenty of time for FMCSA to weigh in on this. And actually, now thinking back on that, Anthony, it may not be a slam dunk that they don't grant this application, because they will, after HHS comes out with their guidelines, they will theoretically have the ability, FMCSA will need to then interpret those guidelines that are for all of DOT for truck drivers, come out with a rulemaking. So it all kind of could come together. And it might be they might not have to actually rule on the application, because that might be already incorporated in the new regulations.
It's going to be interesting to watch for sure. John, thank you for joining us to continue our top story coverage this morning. We'll follow up with you as the story develops.
Sounds good. Thanks, you guys.